Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning, Leaf, Rain, Daisha, Thomas, Jemiah, and Ryan, students from the LaGuardia Academy. They're co-hosting with us today. Frank, can you please give us a rundown on who we have on the show?
Sure, Herb. We got a great show lined up. We have the pleasure of getting to know our guest, Scott Hamberger, CEO of Fortessa, and Larry Blue, CEO of Bell & Howell.
Let's get to know our first guest, Scott Hamberger, CEO of Fortessa. Scott, what is Fortessa? What are you guys doing?
Herb, we're a tableware company. So we sell chinaware, glassware, and metalware. We supply the retail industry. So you'll find our products in about 6,000 stores and 80 websites. And we supply the commercial food service industry, hotels, clubs, restaurants, resorts, et cetera. So you'll find us across the country in better quality commercial food service locations.
How'd you get a job with this company?
I started it, Herb.
All right. And where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I grew up in South Central Pennsylvania, York County. We lived in the country there. I have one brother. He's 2.5 years older than I am.
So give me an idea. What was going on with you 8 to 14 as a kid?
8 to 14, growing up in the country was a wonderful thing. A lot of time outdoors, a lot of time working. We certainly were never idle on the farm, and our parents kept us very busy. So if you didn't have something to do, they would certainly find one for you.
Mm-hmm. Frank?
Scott, tell us, what kind of jobs were you doing on the farm, and what did that teach you?
Whatever needed to be done. So whether it was weeding or mowing or planting or picking, and what it taught me to do was the value of work. I learned to work hard, and I learned to be tenacious about my work.
And you learned that from your father?
From both my parents. Both my parents are very hard workers. They're both entrepreneurs. Set a great example in that regard.
Leaf, what's your question?
All right, Scott, where did you get your business idea from?
So it was never a question for my brother and me as to whether we would start a business. It was a question of what kind of a business it would be. He'd been traveling internationally. He came back from his travels and he said, "Hey, I've got a great idea. Why don't we start a business in international trade?" And I said, "Sure, sounds great." He said, "How much can you get on your credit card?" And that's how we got started, with a credit card advance.
Mm-hmm. Thomas, what's your question?
I want to know, how did you go from life on a farm to the business you're in now?
Well, a few things happened in between, including high school and college. So it didn't happen immediately. But again, even from a young age, I was pretty confident that I would start my own business at some point. So it seemed like a natural progression over those years.
Rain, your question.
Do you use your work ethic from the farm to now your business?
Definitely. And I would say that 90% of success in entrepreneurship is hard work and focus. And having a good work ethic is critical. And certainly as the company has grown and as I've had to develop in my own leadership skills, setting a good example from a work ethic perspective is a very important thing.
Daisha?
Was it hard to adapt from the country to the city?
Actually, no. When being a kid in the countryside and a teenager in the city is a pretty good order of operations. So I was happy to be in the city at the age that I was there.
Mm-hmm. Jemiah?
Who was your motivation growing up?
I would say that my parents were my primary inspiration, and they were very motivating as parents. They certainly were supportive of us, believed in us, encouraged us to do things, encouraged us to try things and fail. One of the best ways to learn in life is to make a mistake. And certainly the deepest scars leave the very best learned lessons. So they always encouraged us and motivated us.
Mm-hmm. Ryan?
What did being the goalie on your soccer team have to do with your business?
So I was always comfortable with leadership roles. It was something that I sought out, and being a goalie is a leadership role, certainly on the defensive end of the field. It's also a role that's very much one-on-one in terms of shootouts, in terms of breakaways. So I would say that I do not mind leading. I'm comfortable in a leadership role, and I'm very competitive. And those things certainly have had application in business.
Frank, what else are you thinking?
Well, it's interesting. You did every job you needed to do on the farm, and your mom taught you creative skills. So I can see how that helped you design and develop and market and distribute everything you need to do in business. But you talked about doing business the right way. You talked about virtue. Why is that important, Scott? And how do you develop a culture of doing business the right way?
So I talk a lot about virtuous leadership, and I believe that leading through virtue, leading through action, says a lot more than any words can say. I would also say that there's a notion that somehow people get ahead in business by being tricky and conniving and slick and taking advantage of others. That may work for a short period of time. It never works in the long term. The most important asset that any business has is its reputation. You build a reputation and you keep a reputation by doing things the right way. So you hear it said that you do well by doing good. It is absolutely true. In the long term, good behavior will always redound to your benefit.
Says the guy who's been in business for 30 years.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
If you meet somebody, Scott, that you think is tricky or deceptive, do you want to do business with them?
No. And fortunately, we have the luxury of being somewhat choosy about the people with whom we do business. And you may have heard it said the customer is never wrong. Well, that's not true. Some customers are actually never right. You want to find people that you can do business with that are reliable. And what you'll find is that when you do business with the right people, they inspire you to give your absolute best efforts to them because you respect them, you care about them, you want them to succeed. So, life is too short to do business with unpleasant people. So like anything else in life, surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be, and you'll find yourself rising to new levels as an individual.
It sounds more like a business. It sounds like a meaningful experience.
Well, thank you. And that certainly is our vision, to create meaningful experiences. And, certainly when people use our product, we believe that adds meaning to it, makes it more than just a meal. But it's also in how we do business. It's how we do business with our customers. It's how we do business with our associates within the company, and how we treat our vendors. We want everyone to have a meaningful experience in working with and around the company.
What's the best part of your job? I mean, why do you do your job?
People. I am very confident that when I die, the good Lord is not going to ask me how many plates I sold. But I do think he will ask me how many lives I touched in a positive way. And the greatest joy of being an entrepreneur is to create a situation where people have the opportunity for personal and professional growth, and for economic self-sufficiency. So the greatest joy for me is to have created a company where those things happen. So interacting with people, coaching people, teaching people, learning from people is the greatest joy in what I do.
Give me that again. I'm not sure I understand the depth of what you're talking about. What do you mean?
In terms of, when we will all have something to show for our lives, right? And people keep scores in lots of different ways. Some people are motivated by money. As I said, when I die, I don't think that God is going to ask me how many plates I sold or how many customers I had, but I do think that he will ask me how many lives I touched. And so having created a business where people have an opportunity to grow personally, to grow professionally in an environment characterized by integrity, is the single greatest accomplishment of my life, other than my wonderful wife and children.
How many kids do you have?
3.
And how old are they? And what have you learned from your kids that's helped you build the business?
My kids are 21, 19, and 16. And I would say that being a parent has made me a better manager and a better leader.
What do you mean? Tell me more.
So, number one, you learn a certain amount of humility. So I'll never forget, my son was about 3 years old. He looked at me, maybe 4. He looked at me and said, "Daddy, you can't fly." As if the fact that I'd never chosen to fly in front of him didn't mean that I couldn't actually fly when I wanted to. And I had this sudden revelation of, oh my gosh, how disappointing. This kid thought that I was omnipotent, that I could do anything I wanted to do. And now he realizes that I'm just an ordinary human being. And I think that one of the things that we have to learn as children is to forgive our parents for the fact that they are only human. And if we accomplish that, then maybe our own kids will forgive us our own humanity as well. Those kinds of experiences around kids give a lot of insight into understanding people in general. And without a doubt, the other thing that kids teach you is the things that you do that you don't even realize that you do, the tics and the habits you have that may not be so attractive. And when you see them repeated back to you, it provides a bit of inspiration to correct them in yourself.
Website address to this organization known as Fortessa?
Fortessa, Fortessa.com.
We've been speaking with Scott Hamberger, CEO of Fortessa, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our Executive Leaders Radio. And don't forget to stick around. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. This is Herb Cohen, your host of Executive Leaders Radio. And if you're a business consultant, if you consult to business owners or to business owners' team members, then we'd like to speak with you because we're getting requests from people all over the country, from entrepreneurs all over the country that are starting and building their businesses where they're looking for help. And maybe we can help connect you. Why don't you email us at consult@executiveleadersradio.com. That's consult@executiveleadersradio.com. And perhaps we can connect you to folks, to entrepreneurs and their team members all around the country that are looking for help. That's consult@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Larry Blue, CEO of Bell & Howell. Larry, what is Bell & Howell? What are you guys doing?
Bell & Howell is an automation equipment service company. Our 800 field service techs are out there fixing equipment in factories, warehouses, and retail stores.
Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? And where are you in the pecking order?
Well, I'm the oldest. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and I was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana on a farm.
And tell me a little bit about what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old.
Well, from 8 to 14 was really working on the farm, baling hay, cutting grass, weeding the garden, taking care of those kinds of things. I was playing baseball and basketball for the local elementary school and then on into high school.
Mm-hmm. Didn't you tell me from 8 to 14 you actually moved around a lot from kindergarten to 4th grade? And if that's the case, wasn't that frightening and rotten?
It had upsides and downsides, Herb. It was frightening because you were always trying to adjust and adapt to a new environment. But the upside was, I learned to read and understand people a little bit better because I had to.
Wait a minute. Now, you were frightened moving from neighborhood to neighborhood when you were kindergarten to 4th grade. Now you're the CEO of an 800-person company. Do you think that those skills that you were forced to develop moving from neighborhood to neighborhood as a kid have helped you become the CEO of this 800-person company?
Oh, I think it's been instrumental. Understanding people and understanding what motivates them, what demotivates them, how to have a conversation sometimes about tough topics is always an important trait for a leader.
Frank.
So, Larry, being forced to adapt to new environments when you were so young, how do you use what you learned there to help create an environment among 800 people that fosters creativity and participation?
Well, I try and get people to communicate, to be transparent, and to be able to talk about what's bothering them, what are the things that are on their mind, because you find that if you listen more than you talk, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, that sometimes you can motivate people in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Rain?
Why start a tech business when you had other skills?
Rain, the reason was I was really into both science and math in grade school and high school, and very interested in technology. My first job, outside of the farm was working in an electronics department at a department store.
Daisha?
What was your position in your sports when you play sports? Like, what was your position? And what does that have to do with your work and position today?
In baseball, I was a first baseman, played also a little bit outfield. In basketball, I was probably the shortest center in the league, but those were the positions I played. I think what it's taught me in business is to be adaptable. Some days I would start at first, some days I'd start in the outfield, and you had a little bit different skills that were required, and you had to adapt to the situation, and I think that's taught me a lot in business.
Jemiah?
Who or what was your motivation?
Well, I think a lot of things that motivate me are self-doubt. A lot of folks I know that are successful have also had self-doubts, and they use those to drive themselves to always do better. And I think that's a key motivator for me.
Leaf?
All right, Larry, when you meet someone new, what good and bad qualities can you distinguish from them immediately?
Well, sometimes it's harder to distinguish the bad qualities, but you can determine an awful lot by listening, by watching visual cues, both facial cues and body language. You can also learn a lot by the vocabulary that an individual uses and the eye contact that they give you when they're talking to you. So it's always worthwhile to pick up on all of those cues.
Thomas?
How long did it take you to become CEO of the company you are at now, and what is your favorite part of being a CEO?
Well, I was hired here as the Chief Operating Officer in 2014 and was promoted to CEO in 2018. This is my second CEO stint. My first one was not a success. And as we've talked about in the past, not every CEO has a linear path to success. Most of us have had our share of failures and learning experiences.
Ryan?
How did you sharpen your social skills, and how did you implement them into your business?
I think the best way to sharpen social skills is to challenge yourself, to sometimes be afraid of an interaction, to go outside of your comfort zone and go meet people, get out and reach out to others, particularly people that aren't exactly like you. And use that as an opportunity to learn more about the environment and the world around you.
Frank?
So, Larry, you talk about fear and self-doubt and lack of confidence. Many people wouldn't admit that. Why is it important to admit that? And how do you suggest that one gets past those fears?
I think I'm old enough now to not kid myself. Early on, I didn't admit that that's what was driving me. But these days, you're to a point in your career where you can admit it and hopefully help others admit that maybe part of the position and the pomp and circumstance that people bring to a job might just be bluster, and maybe you want to get underneath that as a manager.
What's the most important thing in your business? Is it the ability to read and lead people, or is it the ability to fix and service things?
For me, it's the ability to present a vision and to lead people toward that vision. For my guys, it's seeing a new environment, new equipment that they might not have seen before, and still be confident enough to fix it for the customer. After all, when equipment is down, our customers are not making any money in their business.
Larry, I have a question for you. I'm afraid to admit my mistakes, and I'm afraid to be vulnerable. What advice do you have for me?
Get over it. No, that's a little bit glib. I think as you challenge yourself more and get out and feel more comfortable with yourself, you can, in fact, become more comfortable with admitting mistakes. I know raising my kids has taught me to get real comfortable with my mistakes.
Well, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well, they don't, the one thing you don't have to get a license for is to be a parent. and we all learn as we go with a lot of these. All three of my kids are great. They're very different, and they've taught me humility. They've taught me a lot of things about myself, and they've given me enough confidence to be able to say when I'm wrong.
So, are you vulnerable at work? I mean, do you admit your mistakes at work? I mean, you're the CEO. You don't make mistakes.
Oh, I make at least one every day. It's I tell the team I'm good for one good idea a week and at least one mistake a day. Please don't be a yes man. Correct me when I'm wrong.
Yeah. Do you actually tell them to correct you when I thought you were the boss. You're supposed to tell everybody what to do, right?
That's probably 1950s thinking these days. Good leaders surround themselves with good people, people smarter than they are. And if you don't let people who are smarter than they are show that they're smarter than you are, then you're not being a good leader.
Huh. What this organization known as Bell and Howell, what's your website address?
It's bellhowell.net.
Bell and Howell. Well, give me that again.
Bellhowell.net.
Bellhowell.net. We've been speaking with Larry Blue, CEO of Bell and Howell. Frank, can you give me a rundown on who we've had on the air today, please?
Sure, Herb. Great show today. Thanks to our guest, Scott Hamberger, CEO of Fortessa, and Larry Blue, the CEO of Bell and Howell, and a special guest to the students from the Goalie Academy who helped us with our co-hosting responsibilities, asking some very provocative questions.
Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go away. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio, Real World Leaders, broadcasting in conjunction with LaGuardia Academy here in Philadelphia. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts, Kayleaf, Christian, Rain, and Daisha. And we have great guests on our show today, including Michael Sharp, founder of Sharp Financial Group, and Todd Schumacher, CEO of Vici Media. Let's get to know our first guest, Michael Sharp, founder of Sharp Financial Group. Michael, what is Sharp Financial Group? What are you guys doing?
We're a integrated financial services company. So basically, we provide a comprehensive array of financial services in an integrated fashion under one roof.
And tell me a little bit about where you're from originally, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from Philadelphia, row house in Philadelphia, oldest of three.
Row house in Philadelphia, oldest of three. How many teammates do you have in your business?
We have about 40 people right now.
About 40 people. All right. So tell me, what was the effect of your growing up the oldest of three back then?
Well, really learned how to lead. My mom and dad both worked at a young age. So at 8 years old, I was kind of the leader of the family, take care of my two siblings.
So did your parents tell you to take care of your siblings, or did you just sort of like assume that authority?
Yeah, pretty much just assumed it.
Uh-huh. What's assuming authority have to do with you building this organization known as Sharp Financial Group?
Well, it certainly gave me a little bit of an entree into what it would be like to lead. And so I kind of have done that throughout my life, including up till now.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, what was your favorite sport back then, and what was your role on the team?
My favorite sport was and still is basketball. And my role was a shooting guard, which I loved. And I love a lot of the principles of basketball, apply a lot of them to the business today.
Well, wait a second. So you were the shooting guard. What's a shooting guard have to do with being it says here you're the founder of Sharp Financial Group?
A shooting guard, in some respects, unlike a point guard, still has to lead because he's the guy that is relied upon to score. Very similar to business, getting things done, scoring in a different way.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Kayleaf, what question you got?
Did you have any huge obstacles that you ran into that made you consider giving up?
No, not really. We all have obstacles. Don't get me wrong. A lot of obstacles have them today, but always had the mindset that I was as good as anybody else could get it done.
Mm-hmm. Daisha?
Do you still coach basketball?
I don't. I run an AAU basketball organization now. I don't actually coach. I stopped coaching a few years ago.
Rain?
I'm not a big math person, but I would like to make a lot of money. Were you always good at dealing with numbers and money?
I was always pretty good at dealing with numbers, not always good with dealing with money.
Christian?
Who influenced you as a child?
I think, my mom and dad, certainly, my brother, but also I had a lot of good friends and a lot of mentors that helped me.
You mentioned you grew up in a row house in Philadelphia. How many kids were in the neighborhood, and what was your role amongst those kids?
There was probably around 20 or so kids. And my role, much like it's always been, was kind of to lead the group in various activities.
Yeah, you told us earlier in the green room that you were always coming up with ideas of what the 20 of you guys could do, and then you were organizing everybody. I guess that's what you're doing in Sharp Financial Group, coming up with new ideas and organizing everybody?
That's not much different. Same with coaching, all kind of the same.
K-Leaf.
Do you have like anything you want to do after this, or are you just going to keep doing this till the end of the line?
I'm pretty much just going to keep doing this. However, the two main things I would like to kind of get back to, one is coaching, not just running the organization, but actually get back to coaching. And second is growing our business into various locations throughout the country, which we've started to do.
Daisha?
How do you handle your money today?
How do I handle it? That's a great question. We do a lot of financial planning here, and I think one of the misconceptions with what we do is that it's intimidating money, and it's actually not. It's very basic in terms of what you make. Having a budget for what you spend and what you try to save, and try to figure out what you want to do, what the financial goals are that you're trying to meet in doing that. So it's really what I manage money and try to teach other people that anybody can do it. It's not rocket science. It's just a matter of being disciplined and being committed to a plan.
Rain?
Watching your father go from job to job, did that have an effect on you, the way you operate your business now?
It did. It made me more focused in my business and really having me keep my eye on the prize and not get out too much of what the goals are and what the focus is.
Christian?
So what does a simple day look like for you at the job?
A simple day for me really is about what my life is about, which is serving people. That could be my staff here. It could be the clients. It could be my family, my friends. It's really all about what it is that you could do for people, and that always has a way of coming back and helping you yourself to be successful, not by what you take, but what actually you give.
What do you mean it's what you give, not what you take? You're running a very successful integrated financial services firm. It's very sophisticated with 40 team members. You grew up in a row house in Philadelphia. You've made a lot of money. What are you talking about? It's what you give as opposed to what you take. What are you talking about?
Well, it's as opposed to looking at from the perspective of what can I get out of something, it's really the focus being on what it is that I could give to serve the situation. And by doing the very best I can and bringing that to whatever it is I'm doing, I don't have to worry about what the outcome will be, because the outcome I trust will be pretty favorable more times than not.
You mentioned that you really enjoyed coaching, and if I remember correctly, you coached the basketball team that was number 16 in the country. What is it that you enjoy about coaching, and why do you want to go back to it?
Well, I loved to lead. I love sports. I love basketball more specifically, and I think it's a great team sport, probably the greatest team sport, and I love working with kids. And I always thought if I could teach them the way through basketball and show how you could apply that in your adult life to whatever it is you do, then that would be the greatest thing I could do. And by the way, those years of coaching were the greatest years of my life. And I learned so much from my players and their families that I would never be the person I am today had it not been for that experience.
Now, you're running this very successful firm. You've made a lot of money. You've got some very well-known clients in the different sports world, et cetera. And what I'm wondering is, like, what is it that really turns you on? What do you really get up for?
I really get up for helping people and solving problems, helping people and helping them to solve their problems. That's what I get the most from.
Do you ever sit down like with families and help the husband and the wife and the kids understand a financial plan? Do you do that kind of stuff?
That's basically the foundation of what it is that we do.
What do you mean?
No matter what aspect of finance you're talking about, tax, cash flow, debt, whatever you're talking about, business or personal, it all starts with a sound financial plan and a commitment to that plan and knowing what that plan is.
Interesting. So you've developed, you really understand the world of wealth management, financial management, but it's really, you come from the perspective of, as opposed to what's in it for me, how do I serve others?
Yeah, so I really understand the world of wealth management because I understood everything else about what it takes to be a good person and serve people in this life. The wealth management and all those other things I learned like anybody else could learn. It really was based on the foundation of a certain principle and principles.
Mm-hmm.
That really is a being a good person.
What's the website address for Sharp Financial Group?
It's sharpllc.com.
We've been speaking with Michael Sharp, founder of Sharp Financial Group, here on Executive Leaders Radio, Real World Leaders. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, we'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go away. This is Herb Cohen, your host at executiveleadersradio.com. Regarding your career, if you're trying to figure out how to make the most money and also enjoy your career, that's enjoy your career, really enjoy your career and make the most money, you ought to talk to our CEOs. They've got the bird's eye view of where the really profitable jobs are, where the really profitable jobs are going to be, and they're willing to speak with you regarding their vision for the future and where you may fit into it in order to make the most money and really enjoy your career. Email us. consult@executiveleadersradio.com. That's consult@executiveleadersradio.com to get help from our CEOs regarding where you may want to go in your career to make the most money and really enjoy your career. consult@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio, Real World Leaders. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts, Kaleef, Christian, Rain, and Daisha. Let's get to know our next CEO, Todd Schumacher, CEO of Vici Media. Todd, what is Vici Media? What are you guys doing?
We provide digital advertising services to radio and TV companies and ad agencies around the United States.
Where you're from originally, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I grew up in Milwaukee, had two brothers, and I'm the middle child.
So what was the effect of you growing up the middle of three brothers?
Constant competition, especially with my older brother. I would try to beat him in everything, often failed, but always tried.
Uh-huh. And what kind of sport did you play as a kid? What was your favorite sport, and what was your role on that team?
I played everything, but my favorite was baseball, and I was the catcher.
Why did you like playing the catcher? What's that have to do with your personality?
I loved it because I was in on every single play. So you're always in where the action was.
And what's being in on the action, every play, have to do with being the CEO of Vici Media?
I think it relates. I get to touch every part of the business. I get to work with our clients, our employees in different parts, and get to spend a little bit of time in every facet of the business.
Okie dokie. Rain, want to give me a hand?
With me also being a middle child, I'm very competitive. Does you being competitive help with your drive to be more successful?
I think it has, because I always compared myself to others and always saw something I wanted or somebody I wanted to be like and wanted to figure out how I could be better than them.
Mm-hmm. Deja?
Would you recommend everyone to be as competitive as you say you are?
It's worked for me. I think different things can lead to success. You know, everybody's a little bit different. It's worked for me. I think it's made me work a little bit harder and maybe focus in on things that I wanted to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Christian?
So what specifically do you do for radio stations?
What we do is they're used to selling radio commercials to people, which it's getting a little bit tougher and tougher as more people move to wanting to advertise online. So we help their sales staffs and their people in their organization understand all the different options and different ways you can place targeted ads to people on websites and apps.
Mm-hmm. Rain?
You said you compared yourself to others. Did it help you, or does it stop your progress?
I think it's helped me because it was a way for me to always measure what I wanted to do next. And once I would achieve something, then I would look to do something else. And so I was just naturally competitive, and I think it made me work harder than others. And I think that really helped, especially early in my career.
So as you achieve certain levels of success, you would increase the ramp angle. You would keep on going for more and more and more.
Once you achieve something, then you find something else that you want to achieve. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Daisha?
When losing to others or not being as good as them, would that upset you?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel good. Nobody likes to lose, right? But it happens. And I always try to look at it as a learning experience to figure out, okay, what didn't I do right, or what could I do different to change the outcome next time around?
For your clients, the radio stations, and for your clients' clients, how do you know what to advertise and to whom and how and what and where and when? How do you know?
We talk with them about who their advertisers are trying to reach. And then there's thousands of different options online of how you can target people based on behaviors, based on where your devices have been. There's a number of different technologies out there. So what I think we're really good at is figuring out what people are trying to achieve and then matching it to the right technology and the right targeting so that we're getting the most relevant ads to the people who are most likely to be a consumer.
Mm-hmm. Christian?
So how long did it take you to get to this level of success that you're at?
Our company's 8 years old, and I would say the first 18 months, it was a little touch and go as we were building and figuring everything out. But since then, it's been some pretty steady growth after the first 18 months.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you just go sell the business and go to Florida and retire and sit on the couch?
Are you making me an offer, Herb? No, you know what? I love it. I mean, I get up every day and I love what I'm doing, and I'm really enjoying this business. And the great thing about advertising in general and about digital advertising right now is it changes all the time. So it constantly evolves. It's really hard for me to get bored with this. So I'm loving what I'm doing.
Wait a minute. Wait. It constantly changes. But doesn't that make it more and more difficult for you to serve your clients and your clients' clients, because you got the opportunity of making more and more mistakes all the time and everybody getting mad at you?
Well, it's also an opportunity because things change. If you do a good job on staying up on things and changing with the new technologies and evolving with it, then your clients come to trust you and rely on you so they don't have to worry about that. So it's a big service that we provide for our clients is they don't have to worry about the next technology or what's changing. They rely on us to take care of that for them.
So the fact that things are changing all the time, you've actually turned that into a competitive advantage because you're so good on staying on top of stuff and keeping your clients and your clients happy. The clients and the clients tend to stick with you because you don't disappoint them.
We learned at a very early age that we had to adapt if we were going to stay in business. And the products that we offered back in 2014, many of them don't even exist today because new, better technologies, better targeting options that are more successful have come up. So yeah, that was something we learned in the first year that, okay, this was something we needed to spend a lot of time on to make sure that we were going to be relevant in our industry.
I guess the benefit of being the CEO of Vici Media is that you get to go into work at 10 or 11 o'clock and leave at 2 or 3, and you don't got to work weekends or nights or anything like that, right?
I work I work all the time. I'm not so much of an early person, so maybe 8 o'clock for me, but I work a lot of nights and I work every weekend. So, I mean, there's always at least something to do. I may not be working all day on Saturday and Sunday, but you always at least have a couple hours every day.
Well, why do you do? Are you getting paid by the hour or something? Why would you do that? It's
I don't know. It's fun. I still think this is really fun. And, you know, this is kind of a new emerging field that is very much growing and changing. And it's fun being at the forefront and helping to shape that and help our clients. So as long as it's still fun, I don't mind putting in the hours.
Do you think you're ever going to retire, or are you always going to be working?
I think I'll always be doing something. I may not work this many hours at some point in my life, but I can't imagine people that are retired, and I just don't know what they do all day. I'll always be doing something, I think. It's just part of the nature of who I am.
So you really find business challenging. I mean, it's like a personal challenge to you, isn't it?
Yeah, I love solving problems. To me, the greatest joy I get is when you have a problem or you have a situation and you can achieve an outcome where everybody's happy or you figured something out. To me, that's the best feeling in the world.
Wait. I don't understand that. I thought business was somebody wins and somebody loses. Now, you just said basically you find solutions where everybody wins. Do I have the wrong impression of business?
There's many times where you should be able to come up with a solution where it should work for everybody. And for us, it's making something work for our clients that works for their clients. We always say we try to make them look like rock stars to their clients. And if we're doing that, then we're doing our job.
Wow. So like, you know, you really risk losing your clients if you don't keep your clients happy. On the other hand, if you keep each clients happy, you get to keep your client. So you got a lot to lose by disappointing people, but you find that challenging and rewarding, and you look forward to that every day?
Yeah, to me, I love being challenged. And if we can do that every day, our business keeps growing because our clients feel good about what they're getting. They feel good about the solutions, and they bring more of their clients to us. So, you know, that's how our business has grown over the years. And, to me, that's the fun part of the job.
Well, you've grown through referrals, through people really liking you and your work and then bringing other folks. What's the website address for your organization known as Vici Media?
ViciMediaInc.com. That's VICI Media Inc.com.
This is your host, Herb Cohen, and today we've had the opportunity of speaking with Scott Hamberger, CEO of Fortessa, Larry Blue, CEO of Bell & Howell, Michael Sharp, founder of Sharp Financial Group, and finally, Todd Schumacher, CEO of Vici Media. The show's been produced in conjunction with the LaGuardia School, the LaGuardia Academy in Greater Philadelphia, and our co-hosts have been Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning, along with Leaf, Rain, Daisha, Jemiah, Ryan, Thomas, Kayleaf, Christian, Rain, and we'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Hopefully we were bringing you an educational and entertaining show. Without you, our listening audience, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.